Welcome to the Chronically Healthy Life show. When you hear the word chronically, do you automatically associate it with chronic disease? We all do. It's been pre-programmed right into us. But what if we flip that whole idea on its head? Let's discover how we can create chronic health in our bodies, our minds, our finances, our relationships, and of course, in our lives. Let's jump right on in. I'm Andy, and joining me in everything's my life partner, Minna.
We're in summertime, right?
It's summertime, yes.
And school's out.
School's out, traffic is definitely much better.
So why don't we talk about school?
Yeah, there's been a lot of news about school lately, and just talking with some friends that are parents with kids, right? Everyone seems to be a little antsy about what's going on coming up for school year and education and stuff like that.
Well, I don't remember much about going to school. It's been too long. It's like 40-ish years ago since I
Oh,
went to school. So what's different nowadays?
I think nowadays, well, first of all, where did you go to school, Minna?
Well, I grew up in Hong Kong, so I went to school in Hong Kong.
Mhm.
And school system is quite different from when I went from Hong Kong to Canada. The way you calculate the levels is different. How you have like middle school and high school.
Correct.
We have a different system. We used to follow the British system, which is primary and secondary, and then you have pre-U, which is another 2 years. So the system's very different. The curriculum's very different. When I moved to Canada, I'm like, is that what you guys are doing?
Well, that's the point that I want to bring up. Like, I grew up in Canada, so I went to a Canadian school, and I remember meeting you. Well, you came in grade 11, right?
Mhm.
And she was in grade 11, taking all the grade 12 courses,
Only
and
in science,
yeah,
like
and
math and
and,
science.
and math, right? And it was hilarious because she didn't need to study. She just go in, do the test, she wings it, and she gets all the bonus marks. So she gets more than 100%, which is sort of ridiculous, but it tells you how much better the schooling system was in Hong Kong.
Well, I don't know. It's actually better. They just squeeze you a little harder, like they push you a little harder.
And it's interesting because, I want to talk a little bit about public education here, specifically in the United States. And it seems like, talking with parents around US, at the different states and stuff like that, that they're concerned that what they're teaching in school, and I'm not going to go into that, not trying to get political about what they teach in school, but they are worried that it seems like they're not getting the education that they once were. Like, their math scores, their reading scores are dropping down, their math scores are dropping down. And especially over the last 2 or 3 years with the pandemic and the lockdown, when everyone was stuck at home and not doing homeschooling, they basically were just chilling out, playing on the iPads, watching TV. They lost 2 years of education there, and it really set them back specifically for US.
Well, is it really a fault of the school, or is it the fault of the system, or is it just because parents don't know how to teach your kids, how to keep up when the school can't keep up?
It was probably a combination of the three, and I love how you frame that because when we get Kristy on here a little later, she's going to help the parents make sure that this doesn't happen again, right? So, after hearing about how these friends are complaining that the school system isn't that good, I was looking online to see how is US doing, ranked around the world, right? Because in US, English is the only language, right? It's the main language that's taught in school.
Yeah, I mean, English for me is basically the third language,
Correct.
right? But when I come here, you guys speak really well because that's your day-to-day conversations. But in terms of reading and writing, I'm at the same level as you, and English is my third.
Correct. Well, it's interesting, according to a study that was done in 2022, that just last year now, by the Program for International Student Assessment, or PISA. They were assessing 15-year-olds from 81 international schools around the world on reading skills and on math. And it was interesting because US, which is English is their first language, they ranked number 6.
That's pretty bad.
That's pretty bad, right? And here's where it gets funny. They're ranked behind Ireland. And I have Irish friends. I cannot understand what they're saying. God bless you. Really good friends of mine. Ireland, Northern Ireland, England, Poland, and even Hong Kong, where you got your education. Isn't that crazy?
There you go. Prove the point.
Yeah, reading skills is better in Hong Kong than the United States, right? How about math? Why don't you share what we found about math?
Well, I would imagine math is even worse in terms of ranking because I watched my nephews grow up with horrendous math skills. Like they don't teach you to do the basic math the way that we were taught before. And I guess, your research shows the same, right?
Yeah, the research shows the same. Math US is ranked 26 out of 81. And this is sort of funny because the top 5 is Singapore, Macau, Taiwan, Japan, and Hong Kong again. Isn't that interesting? So maybe Hong Kong did teach you something right.
Well, for Asians, B is Asian fail.
Exactly. Asian fail for B's, right? So, but yeah, that's so interesting because I think a lot of people, they are getting frustrated now with the public school system. And I think it's important, like you said, to educate the parents on what's out there, what they can do to make sure their children is getting the best education possible.
Because like even the last few years, if they taught us nothing, you have to rely on yourself to be self-sufficient.
Yes,
and that includes educating your own kids.
That is so
when
true.
you can get to a school, it can get to the teacher. You have to take care of yourself, otherwise, your kid won't know how to count 1 + 1 or ABCs.
Exactly, and it seems like homeschooling is starting to become a hotter and hotter topic, right? Like from people that we're hearing.
Yeah, homeschooling in the old days, it used to be only for like special ed people. Like you unless you have special requirements, you don't need to be homeschooled. But I think that's trending differently now.
Yeah, I think homeschooling, depending on where it's done, like one of the people that we follow was Ben Greenfield, and he homeschools his children. And it's interesting when he was telling, in his podcast how he homeschools his children, and he puts them on camping trips, and they have to put up tent, they have to figure out the hunt, they have to figure out how to build the tent. So you got math skills, you got science skills, you got putting out the traps together and everything. And I was like, wow, that's way more useful information.
That's actually very interesting. It's almost like Boy Scouts, exotic Boy Scouts.
Exactly, right? But he has it to the point that, he gets the kids to learn what they need to learn to pass the state tests, right? I guess so if they're going to high school, whatever, they count as real education towards homeschool.
So is there any drawbacks to like homeschool? Did it become limits?
I think with homeschooling, depending on how it's set up, I think that's the biggest thing is you're afraid they're not going to have interaction with kids. But looking at kids now, most of them, even if they're sitting next to each other, just holding the iPhone and they're just talking to each other through text anyway. So I don't know if that's a big deal anymore.
So maybe it is not a problem anymore.
Exactly. So, if anything, homeschooling is a great time for parents to start looking at that option, especially if they have a parent that's a stay-at-home that can help with the homeschooling.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a break and we're going to have biohack. And then we're going to bring Kristy back with us.
Yes, we'll see you there. Strap in, folks. We're about to take a joyride through the fountain of youth. It's Annie Nam from Chronically Healthy Life. Ever wonder why some folks seem to age like fine wine, while others are more like a molded cheese that's been forgotten in the back of the fridge? It's like they got the energy of a Duracell bunny on Red Bull, while the rest of us are running on fumes. Now, you might think hitting the gym and munching on kale is the ticket to eternal youth, but sometimes it feels more like we're just speeding up the aging process. Picture this, you're on the treadmill, feeling like $1,000,000, and suddenly you look down and realize your knees sound like a bag of popcorn in the microwave. Not exactly the sound of youth, am I right? But fear not, my friends, because here's the kicker. It's not just about the number of candles on your birthday cake. It's all about those sneaky little stem cells playing hide and seek inside your body. At the age of 20, you got more of these bad boys than you can shake a stick at. But fast forward a few decades, and they're scarce as a parking spot in downtown Manhattan. But guess what? We got a secret weapon up our sleeves. Phototherapy patch technology without drugs. That's right, folks. With our stem cell activation patches, you can hit the rewind button on aging faster than you can say reverse aging. So if you're ready to reclaim your youth, look younger, feel stronger, and heal faster than a superhero with a side of espresso, then it's time to hop on board the rejuvenation train. Get your stem cell activation patches now at lifewave.com/chronically healthy life. And let's make aging look like yesterday's news. It's not anti-aging, it's reverse aging, baby. Hi, it's Andy from Chronically Healthy Life. Welcome back to another episode of our biohacking series, Inflammo-geddon. So, on our last two episodes, we tackled simple ways to check if your body is hiding a secret stash of chronic inflammation, right? So make sure you check the last two episodes. But today, we're going to dive a little deeper into the very first blood test that you should think about getting and requesting from your doctor, or even order directly from us. And you want this test whenever you've been, just off. You're not feeling spectacular, you've been sick for a very long time, and you just don't seem to be recovering as quickly. So let's talk about inflammation. You see, inflammation is like your body's personal bodyguard. Just imagine you have a bouncer at a club, right? And he rushes in to the scene. He increases blood flow. He brings in all the white blood cells. He sends out a whole bunch of chemical reinforcements, right? And this big superhero squad, it helps your body, whip up some antibodies and cytokines and all these crazy self-defense things to fend off those nasty pathogens, repair the damage, and to eliminate all these toxins, right? So what's acute inflammation? Well, acute inflammation is the rock star of the immune system. When you get injured or hurt or sick, acute inflammation swoops right in, it deals with the issue, and then it just gradually exits left, right? It's almost like you never see them coming. You might notice pain, swelling, redness, maybe some itching, maybe some heat, or even some sneezing and coughing if it's a respiratory issue. But acute inflammation is your body's way of saying, I got this. But then there's chronic inflammation. This guy is like the annoying house guest that comes to your house and just never leaves, right? It's low grade, it's systemic, and it can stick around for months, years, or even a lifetime if you're not careful. So chronic inflammation doesn't have a specific cause. It's more like a perfect storm of poor diet, bad lifestyle choices, stress, and of course, hidden environmental toxins, right? All this stress causes your body to produce inflammatory modulators, leading to a never-ending cycle of inflammation, and hence chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation causes fatigue, chronic pain, it causes headaches, brain fog, insomnia, weight gain, weight loss, and even mood swings. It affects every part of your body, from your digestive system all the way up to your brain, your muscles, your heart, your skin and bones, and even potentially causing the big C. So what do we do about it, right? We test for inflammatory markers, and the star of our show today is the C-reactive protein, or CRP test. This test measures a protein produced inside your liver that shows how much inflammation is lurking all inside your body, right? CRP levels shoot right up when your body is dealing with inflammation, and the clinical range is between 0 to 3 milligrams per liter. But what's the optimal range? Optimal range, that's from 0 to 1. So if your CRP levels are over 1, it's a sign your body's fighting off something that's not good. Remember, for optimal health, we want those levels as close to 0 as possible. Think 0.01 milligrams per liter. That's what I would like to see. That's what me and Min is always striving for optimal health. So, biohackers, remember, inflammation can be your best friend, or it could really be your worst enemy. If you're feeling off for a long time, get your CRP measured and keep them in check. And remember, between 0 and 1, preferably 0.01 and milligrams per liter. That's what you're looking for. And conquer this Inflammo-geddon that is going around just everywhere with everyone. So until next time, stay healthy, stay happy, and live a chronically healthy life.
Jeff Pearson here, host of Invisible Condition, where we talk about all the people who are living and thriving with all those conditions that you can't necessarily see from the outside. Join me every Tuesday and Friday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time on E360 TV.
Welcome back to the Chronically Healthy Life show. And today, our special guest is the one and only Kristy Boyd Johnson, which is normally our show host. She normally does all the interviews for our guests, and now is our time to pick her brains a little bit.
Introduce Kristy?
Yes. So Kristy is a 30-year veteran teacher. She has an extensive and varied teaching background. And besides teaching within the school system, she's also tutored kids with learning difficulties, advocated for them, and homeschooled both individuals and groups. And she's been, as it's been for many teachers on the front lines, being part of the homeschool system was pretty hard for Kristy. She witnessed both the successes and the failures in the public system. And she helped this vision of hers for a paradigm shift that could benefit all students, like all the problems that we were talking about earlier, right? And, they not only benefiting the students, going to benefit the parents, and of course, all the teachers that's probably struggling right now. So she created Barefoot Learning Club, which is a unique and wonderful opportunity to change a course of educating children in different ways to teach them how to learn rather than what to learn. And of course, Kristy has ghostwritten over 35 books. My reading skills aren't that good. Books, Canada, Canadian education, and helps entrepreneurs, develop their books. She holds an MFA in professional screenwriting and authored several of her own children's books. Welcome to the show, Kristy. How does it feel being on the other side?
Ooh, it's a different feeling. It really is being on this side of it. But thank you so much for doing this today.
Hey, Kristy, we want to pick your brain a little bit. Why don't you tell the audience about how you landed into this teaching and homeschooling idea?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm glad you asked me that, because some of what you were saying in the intros directly applies. So over the years, I've literally seen how the school system has eliminated the tools that kids actually need to learn, especially with reading. They've done it with math too, but I'm going to start with reading, because reading is more of a foundation than math is. Mm-hmm. If you got to start with reading before you before you can move on. So let me give you an example. In the 90s, they brought out this program, which was basically look at a word and guess, and taught no phonics, no sound. It's called a sound symbol connection, where when you look at a letter like a T, that it says T, that's the sound that you say when you see the letter. Well, in English, most of the consonants are pretty straightforward, but the vowels are complicated. and they've eliminated the tools for the kids to learn to read. So it's like, I always say, it's like telling the kids, okay, here's a piece of wood and a nail. You're going to hammer that nail right into that wood, right? And then they take away the hammer. And when the kids try and then they get frustrated and they get upset, and then they blame the kid that because they can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me crazy because I see these kids and they're frustrated and they cry and they take it all in like it's their fault. And it's not. It is something, it has actually been inflicted on them.
Why did they take away the hammer?
They take away. Good question. But that gets into the political agendas behind most curriculums nowadays, which is why you're seeing such an outflow of people out of the system and into the homeschooling system. So I thought, I would kind of show you guys like for example, I dropped my card, but there's a word pattern. They just teach almost everything as a sight word now. And so you get a really complicated pattern like this. The O-U-G-H. Is it forwards or backwards on the screen?
It's backwards.
Oh, no. It's O-U-G-H.
I was having a dyslexic moment there.
Sorry. Technical difficulties.
O-U-G-H, okay?
O-U-G-H. They teach it as so you take a word like through, like go through the tunnel, and they just basically tell the kids it's a sight word. This pattern is not a sight word. It is a phonetic combination of letters that has distinctive sounds. They don't teach the kids. So if I said to you guys, okay, we're going to make a recipe, put in chili powder. Okay. How much,
Mm-hmm.
a teaspoon or, a whole cup or what, well, I'm not going to tell you that. Figure it out. And if you get it wrong, it's your fault.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's the same kind of mentality, and they do it in math too. But reading is more foundational because everything stems from reading. All learning stems from reading. And so when we go back to, I got frustrated with the school system, and I went and I found my own curriculums that I searched out ones that actually taught the kids the tools. I can get kids reading in a week.
Wow.
Not Shakespeare, but appropriate for the kids. They can start reading simple phonetic words, connecting what the symbols and the sounds are, and getting what the words are. So it's actually not that hard. It's just that nobody knows how to do it anymore because it's all been taken away systematically over years. Take away this piece, take away that piece, take away this. So I agree with you about other countries like Hong Kong, Minna.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. I don't know if you guys speak Cantonese, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes, I don't know if that's a phonetic language because
No, it isn't.
No,
It is
it's very
not.
different. But Spanish is.
Yeah,
and we're
Spanish
learning
is. I'm learning Spanish, yes.
Spanish is a phonetic language. German is a phonetic language.
Mm-hmm.
But English is, but it's also not in some ways. But you have to know it. You have to understand the vowels especially. So it's not that hard, and the kids really love it because kids want to learn. They want to. They're excited. They're going to school. They're a big kid now. We're going to school, and I'm going to learn to read. And then they get destroyed, and they come home crying.
Well, that's interesting because it's like, do you think that parents are realizing that things have changed in public schools? Because you said this started in the 90s. We're like 2024 now. That's like 30 years.
Yeah.
Things must have changed dramatically. And now, like even talking with clients with their kids, they need special tutors to teach them how to read. And I was thinking, well, that's, one's a 6-year-old, one's a 9-year-old. I was thinking, I was never that good in English growing up, but I could read, right? It was never difficult. Like, why do you need some other specific private tutor, like not a tutor, actually the specialist to
Yeah.
teach them how to form the mouths for the TH sound and everything. I was thinking, wow, I remember that was taught in school back in the day when we were going to school, at least.
Yes, and they took it away. And so, they'll hold up a picture of a tree with the word tree written under it, and then hold up a picture of the number 3 with the word 3. Well, what happens when you take away the picture? If you haven't taught them the difference between T standing alone and a TH phonogram that has a different sound. And so, then blame the kids when they don't get it. It's just not fair, and it's not necessary. And that's why I've moved towards homeschooling entirely with my reading program, because I do think parents are getting really savvy to the ridiculousness of their kids being in school 7-8 hours and learning nothing. Kindergartners learn the alphabet in their first year of school. Are you kidding me? They should be reading. They should be, and they can be. That's the thing is that has been lost, is like they can read. You just have to teach them. And it's the same with math, the very foundational math. And we're talking adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. You start with adding because that's the easiest concept of putting things together. If I have a cupcake and I give you a cupcake, do you have more cupcakes now? And they get that immediately. Well, what if I have another cupcake and you take it? Do you have, they get it. They get it. And that's the other thing, is you have to make it fun and goofy at the same, it has to be some silly and fun. It doesn't have to be, it's so aggravating, the misconceptions that happen. And I think for homeschooling parents, one of the scariest things is they think they have to move school to their dining room. They think they need to do what they do in school in their dining room. That is a huge mistake. Do not do that, because it doesn't work.
So why would homeschooling? So what? You're saying that you don't bring the school into the home, but how do you still have to follow curriculum? And I'm sure, because there's some parents going to ask you, is this really legal? Can I really do that? I'm not a certified teacher for some reason, right? So tell us about that.
So, no. Well, okay. Every state has its own laws, so you should look at your state to see what they require you to document. But generally speaking, as long as you document, you're less like, so if I have a 5-year-old and I'm teaching them reading, I document, like, today we learned the letter T, and we practiced that sound, and we made these words, and that's the reading part. And then in math, we practiced, we connected reading and math by the symbol, and the word is going to be backwards on the screen, but it's supposed to be forwards, but connecting the word to the symbol and understanding that it's the same thing. And then we played a game where I said, go to the garden and get one rock and bring it back, so that they're, and you just document that. That's math. And then the rest, though, for little children now, it's going to be different as they age. But for young children, say K through grade 2, this is the main focus that you do. And when you read to your children, that counts as reading. It counts because when you read to your children, it's comprehension, they're understanding, they're listening to the words, they're building a vocabulary, they're visualizing, using their minds to visualize the story, the characters. However they do that is okay. And it can extend, like some kids are goofy and they'll get up and they start acting out the characters, or they'll sing, or they want to make a play out of the story or draw pictures. All of that is a lesson. So my kids, we read the story of the Cat in the Hat, and then the kids do pictures. That's art. And we listen to young kids can listen to a book like Harry Potter. That's a little advanced for them to read, of course.
It was advanced for me to read, okay?
But I think audiobooks are a very powerful tool
Correct.
because the kids can relax and their brains can absorb. And that is huge for vocabulary and reading and comprehension. And those are just as important as looking at identifying the letters and reading them on the page.
So let me ask you this. We in Texas, families tend to be big families. Your friends have 4 kids, 6 kids, they're all like a year apart. How does one parent handle 6 kids at the same time?
I have to say that's a tough one. If they're all in the same general age category, it's much easier. But if you've got a spread like high school to kindergarten, they don't go together. But there is the opportunity to do pods. So pods are when a group of people, it can be in the same neighborhood, where they put their kids together in a pod. And then, so let's say we have a high school student and you have one and I have one, and we're going to put them in a pod together with some other kids. We can either each teach a different subject. Like I might teach writing, and then also, depending on where they are in their reading, like I can also remediate older kids very quickly with my program, like in a month. So very quickly. And maybe I do reading and writing with them. And then Minna, you come in and you do math and science with them. And then another parent comes in and does art, and another one does music and whatever, however that works out. Or they hire a teacher that comes in and functions as the teacher in the pod, especially when parents have to work. They might need a teacher. There's also some people I've heard they do a hybrid of that where they bring in a teacher for the subjects that they struggle with. And I've heard a lot about algebra and geometry, needing a math teacher at that level because the parents don't know how to teach it. And again, it's a big mistake to do what the schools are doing because they have messed up math just as much as they've messed up reading. And it's so confusing the way I can't even understand what they're talking about. And I'm good at math. And I'm just like, what are they talking about? And when I used to, I would tell the kids, hey, you guys, you know what? Don't tell on me, but I'm going to teach you the easy way. Don't worry about all this other stuff. And my kids scored higher on the test than anybody else.
That is so awesome.
Yeah, because ultimately it's like, well, it doesn't matter. They just have to try to figure it out. Yeah, it matters. It matters on the test because that's how you guys assess.
Yeah, because there are like helicopter parents, right? They just want, your kid might be just 4 years old. He's already thinking about putting the kid into Ivy League school, college or something, right? So,
Right.
This whole thing has to make sense so the kid can actually pass all the tests required to go into these elite schools.
Exactly. Now, here's an interesting thing that happens with homeschooling families. In fact, I was just talking to a gentleman today. He's got an 8-year-old daughter, and they've been homeschooling her. And they actually tried to put her in a regular 8-year-old is a 3rd grade. And she was so far beyond them that they pulled her back out again because she was so bored that she couldn't take it. And then the school was putting pressure on the parents, telling them, you need to have your child needs to be with us, and your child isn't performing right. And she's like, she can do more than you're, And so that happens because the reason that happens is because when the kids are supported and learning becomes an adventure, learning becomes an exploration rather than read this paragraph and then tell me what it said and punch a button on an iPad. That is boring. And who wants to do that? And I don't blame the kids. And then the kids who struggle with reading, especially if they have a learning disability like dyslexia or something, they can't do it at all. And what do you think they do? They hit about 10 years old and you start having behavior problems, big ones. And it's not very well. I mean, there are kids I know. They might have found, you never know, but most of the time it's directly related to the fact that they're either bored or they're frustrated. And they get blamed because they can't do it. And it's not their fault. So that's an interesting thing that's happened. And I have to talk about social. That's one of my hot buttons too, is people are like, what about socialization? Okay. Socialization is a political buzzword. When we talk about that, when we talk about socialization for our children, we're talking about, we want them to have friends. We want them to get along with their friends. We want them to know how to communicate well. And if there's a conflict, how to work it out. That's what we're talking about. But school socialization is sit down, be quiet, do what you're told, stand up, line up, follow the line. Don't ask questions unless we tell you to ask a question. And don't ask. And if you ask a question we don't like, we're going to send you to the principal. And, it's not about thinking something through. It's all about regurgitating. And so that's actually a myth. Just forget about that. There are so many ways to get your kids in homeschool. There are homeschool groups. There are clubs for everything, from sports to arts and crafts to music to drama, art, everything out in the community that are specifically for kids. Get your kids in there and let them make their friends. They will make friends and they will be loving it because they're choosing it. Like, Andy, you wouldn't pick swimming probably. No. But Minna, you might pick something like if you were maybe playing the piano, and go into something where maybe music, where you get to play the piano and you'd make your friends in there. Let them self-determine, and then they're happy and they're making friends and they're with other kids who like the same things.
And like you said, I think that's important, because in regular school system now, the parents, like Minna says, like all the helicopter parents, they're putting them into whatever else the other parents are putting them into, regardless if the kids are gifted or not. And it's funny because I think we're probably the only couple that didn't have kids, and all our friends have kids, and now most of them are going towards college or whatever. But like, for the last 18 years as they're growing up, they're all planning about Ivy League. They're in Canada, because I grew up in Canada, going into Ivy League schools in US and stuff like that. They're going to all the private schools, thinking that paying for all this is going to help. And at the end, they're still going back to a local school within Canada after paying who knows how much money, right? And to be honest, I don't know if the kids were actually happy being thrown in those situations. I mean, now you're putting so much more stress on them too, right? And they don't learn anymore.
Yes. Like time and cost of homeschooling, right? It sounds like it's a very good idea, but it sounds like it takes a lot of time. Does it actually take a lot of time?
It actually doesn't. You know what? You get more done if you sit down and you focus on the basics. I do 2 hours with the kids. And it's broken up 2 hours where I'll tell the kids, okay, guys, for 20 minutes, we're going to do this. And you guys are really going to get it. Then we're going to take a little break and we'll have a dance party or something, because they need to move.
Right.
And, and by the way, physical education is the easiest thing to put on your planner, because it's anything where they move. Take a walk with your dog. That's PE. But then we come back and then we extend. So like, for example, if I was teaching them the AT at family, we might play a game where we put different letters on the front and see what we get. And the kids start connecting: cat, mat, rat, sat. Oh, what if we put a Z, zat? Is that a word? And then we have fun with goofy words and we do silly words. And that's okay, because they're learning the pattern. And that's how they read fast, when you do this. And then we take another break, and then we'll switch to math, because when they're little, reading and math, I'm telling you, focus on that, and everything else is easy. You can do life skills, garden, cooking, have kids. I mean, obviously a 5-year-old in the kitchen with mom is going to obviously not tell them to take something hot out of the oven, but but that's not the point. The point is they can mix a salad or help, or pour the glasses of water on the table or whatever. And that is they're learning life skills, they're learning communication skills, they're learning cooperation, they're getting along, they're helping, it's all these things, and you put them all on what you're teaching them. Anything, literally anything can be turned into a lesson and put in your planner. So I have a planner that I give to people where you just print it out, one page for each kid each day. And then you just fill it out, put it in a binder, and then the next day you put the next one behind. And at the end of the school year, you have the whole year, and you put it away. And if the state ever comes back and says, prove that you did homeschool, easy. Oh, I have to back up a minute. The testing. Okay.
Yes.
Dirty little secret time. all these standardized tests, when kids are in any grade from K through 12, I don't know if they do them when they're really little, but once they start doing them, parents, if your kids are in school, parents have the right to excuse their kids from that. They are not mandatory.
Oh, really?
Yes, they are voluntary, but they don't tell you that. Now, that doesn't mean they don't have to go to school. If they're enrolled in school, they still have to go, but usually what they do is they take the kids to the library, or there's a class, a designated classroom where one teacher is in there supervising, and they do stuff. But they don't have to take the test. Testing is all about school funding. It is not about the children, their scores, their learning, or anything else. That's it. And as for things like college entrance, SATs, for example, or any of the higher ones when you're going to grad school, like MCATs for medical school, or LSATs, I think it's LSAT for law school, any of those higher ones, the key to those is not your knowledge, it's understanding how you take the test. And there are programs out there that if you go to a program that's like memorize all this vocabulary, dump that program. If they teach you how they word things, how they like, for example, on the SATs, if you have 5 choices and there's one that's dissing any group of people, it doesn't matter who they are, eliminate that choice. It'll never be an answer. You can usually whittle it down by 2 or 3, even if you don't know the answer. And then you have it down, just knowing how they do it. I had one student years ago, I did a crash course with her on the SAT math section. Her score jumped up 200 points.
Wow.
Just because of that. Yeah. I couldn't teach her math in 2 weeks. I taught her how to take the test. So yeah, you guys, the thing about it is that education comes out of the political system, and it has become a political football. And unfortunately, they're using our kids that way. And it's not about educating them. It's about making them conform. And parents too. And I think parents they feel it even if they don't know it. And it is very doable. It's doable. It's easier than you think it is. You can do so much with the kids where if you work at home, you do the main thing, and then you give them projects that they can do independently. That's good for them. And let them pick. So if one kid wants to learn about whales, and then your older kid is into astronomy, good, go pick a subject within that topic and do a project for me. And do it any way you want to. You want to do a PowerPoint? You want to do a poster board? You want to do a play? Any way you want to, but teach me about it. And that is, it's fun. They like it. The kids love it.
So let me ask you this. When is homeschooling not the right thing to do for a kid?
That's a tough question. Because honestly, I feel like it's kind of a family choice. There are other options from public school. There's private schools, but those are expensive.
Yeah.
There are charter schools. Every community has charter schools. Charter schools they're like public schools. They don't charge. They're free. And the advantage of a charter school is that if you find the one with a program that matches what you want, because they're very individual, You can't just throw them into any charter. That's a good option. A lot of times they have a kind of a hybrid between homeschool and being present at school, which helps the parents if they're working. So they go to school 2 or 3 days a week, and then the other 2 days they're at home, but they have assignments that they're doing, and they're supposed to do them independently. So, so if, you know, if especially if you have a high-powered job and you're really working a lot and it's very difficult, and then there's pods are another option. So it's really a personal choice.
Exactly. No, that's awesome. That's so much information, you know, of what homeschooling is all about. It, you know, it's very different from the way I envision what homeschooling is. I thought my mom would be there with the chopstick and slapping you when you're not doing things right. You know, that's just the way I brought up. So what is the best way for people to reach out to you to find out more about homeschooling?
Well, they can go to the website. It's barefootlearningclub.com. And I do have some video up there if you guys want to start your kids reading right now. It's up there. Or you know what, if you want one of the, if either the planner or the we have another freebie about kind of about this topic that we're talking about here. Correct. You just email me at barefootlearningclub@gmail.com and I'll just send it to you. And
I understand you have a Facebook group too. What's a Facebook group all about?
Kids Read for Real is it is not public. You'll have to ask to join, and then just tell me that you saw me on Chronically Healthy Life, and I'll let you in. But that's for our people who are specifically wanting to learn. The littlest we start them right at the beginning. Older kids, we have real fun, short remediation. We can remediate them really fast because they already know a lot. It's really just the vowels and then these weird patterns like OUGH. Teaching them those, and then they get it. So, yeah. So yeah, and just reach out to me. And also, if you want to have a conversation, email me there too, and say, hey, I want to talk to you, and we'll get on a Zoom and we'll have a chat.
That is so awesome. Thank you, Kristy, for being the guest this time around. I know you're on the other side of the chair. We're going to have a short break, and we're going to come back with Kristy's Kids Corner. We all hope to age gracefully so we can enjoy later years with energy, vitality, and good health. But so often with age, our bodies show signs of things just aren't the same as they used to be. Our energy, skin, healing recovery time, and sleep all go downhill. If you had physical trauma that happened to your body like I did, this happens much faster. I felt like a 30-year-old trapped in an 80-year-old body. But do you remember as kids, the boundless energy we had, how fast we recovered? This is not because of getting old, but because of active stem cells inside our bodies. These are the cells that can generate and regenerate all the cells and structures in the human body. They are the building blocks of our organs, tissues, blood, and immune system. They also serve as an innate repair system everywhere inside the body. But as we get older, stem cell activity slows down, become less effective in repairing damage, and decline. By the age of 20, we only have 1 billion stem cells left. By 30, they decline by 60%. By 50, they decline by 75%. 60 by 90%. And by 80, we're lucky to have 50 million active stem cells. But what if we can naturally stimulate our bodies to reactivate and regenerate new stem cells through phototherapy without drugs? Now we can with our LifeWave X39 stem cell activation patches. Reclaim your youth and look younger, feel stronger, perform better, and heal faster. Get your patches now at lifewave.com/chronically healthy life. It's not anti-aging, it is reverse aging.
Everybody, this week on Kids Corner, we're going to talk about, since we're in summer travel, we're going to talk about being safe with your kids around the ocean. The ocean is big, beautiful, fun, and can be extremely treacherous. And one of the things that people aren't aware of are rip currents. So a rip current can pull you out so fast that you don't even realize that it's happening to you. I actually personally, when I was 12 years old, got caught in a rip current and I got pulled out so far. I was out at the end of a pier and I could not get out of the rip current. And I had to ask the people that were fishing from the pier to call the lifeguards to come and get me because, Well, I was 12 years old, and I was a really good swimmer. I still am, but I could not get out of that rip current, and they had to come and get me with a jet ski. So rip currents are very dangerous. You can kind of see them. If you look, you can see that when the waves come in, they'll funnel out into a, you'll see them funnel out. And when you see that, avoid that area. Be really, really, really careful. Even wading with small children, because those little waves can knock a small child off their feet and pull them right out. So we want everybody to be safe, have fun, and enjoy your travels, and enjoy the beach and the sun and the sand and the surf in a safe way. Never take your eyes off your kids when you're around water. Okay, ciao for now.